I built my life from nothing in Dallas, Texas. When I first moved there at 24, all I had was a second-hand car, a laptop, and a stubborn belief that I could make something of myself. Over the next 10 years, that belief turned into a thriving construction company. Long days, sleepless nights, risky investments, it all paid off eventually. The small apartment turned into a 5-bedroom house in the suburbs. The old car became a luxury SUV. The stress became success. My wife, Emily, came into my life when things were just starting to improve. Back then, we still counted every dollar. We shared cheap dinners and dreamed about vacations we couldn't afford. She used to hold my hand and say, "One day we'll look back at this and laugh." I believed her, I believed in us. But as the years passed and the money grew, something else changed too. Emily began caring more about appearances. Designer handbags replaced her old purses. She spent hours scrolling through social media, comparing our lives to influencers and wealthy friends. Our conversations shifted from dreams and goals to upgrades and status. She talked about moving to a bigger house. Even though ours was already more than enough, she wanted a newer car, exclusive memberships, more luxury trips. At first I told myself this was normal. We had worked hard, we deserved to enjoy it. But deep down a question started hunting me. If all of this disappeared tomorrow, would she still look at me the same way? The thought wouldn't leave my mind. One evening after dinner, I asked her to sit with me at the kitchen table. My heart was racing in a way it hadn't since my early business days. I wasn't nervous about losing money. I was nervous about losing the truth. "I need to tell you something," I said quietly. She looked up from her phone, slightly annoyed but curious. I took a deep breath and lied. "The company is in trouble. Really bad trouble. We lost a major contract and investors pulled out. I've been trying to fix it, but we're bankrupt." The word hung in the air like smoke. Emily's face went pale. She blinked rapidly, staring at me as if I had just spoken a foreign language. "Bankrupt," she repeated. I nodded slowly, pretending to be defeated. "We might have to sell the house, downsize, start over." For a few seconds, she said nothing. No comforting words, no reassurance, no, "We'll get through this together." Just silence. Then she stood up abruptly and said she needed some air. She grabbed her phone and walked outside. I stayed at the table alone, staring at the polished marble surface we once celebrated buying. My chest felt heavy, not because of the fake bankruptcy, but because of her reaction. I had expected shock, maybe even fear, but I had also hoped for loyalty. That night she barely spoke to me. She lay beside me in bed, turned away, her mind clearly somewhere else. As I stared at the ceiling in the darkness, I realized something terrifying. I hadn't just tested her love. I had put my entire marriage on trial. The next day felt heavier than the night before. Emily barely looked at me during breakfast. She moved around the kitchen quietly, her usual energy gone. No small talk, no reassuring touch on my shoulder. "Just distance. I'm going to meet Rachel later," she said casually, scrolling through her phone. Rachel was her older sister, the one who always had strong opinions about money, relationships, and knowing your worth. I nodded okay, but something in her tone felt different, cold, calculating. Around noon, I decided to come home early from the office. I wanted to see how she was really handling the situation. When I wasn't in front of her, I parked outside and noticed her car was still in the driveway. The house was quiet when I stepped inside. Then I heard her voice upstairs. She was in our bedroom. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop at first, but as I walked past the stairs, I heard my name and the word bankrupt. I stopped. Her voice was lower than usual, almost like she didn't want the walls to hear her. "Yes, Rachel, it's bad," she said. "He said we lost everything." There was a pause while her sister spoke on the other end. Then Emily sighed. "I don't know what I'm going to do." Something in me still hoped she would say, "I'll stand by him or we'll figure it out together." But instead she laughed softly. Not a nervous laugh, not a sad one. A bitter one. "I didn't sign up to struggle again." She said I already did that once. My heart started pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. Rachel must have said something because Emily replied exactly. "I'm still young. I can't waste my life trying to rebuild from zero." "Waste my life?" The words echoed in my head like a gunshot. She continued, "I deserve stability, security. If he can't provide that anymore, what am I supposed to do? Just sit around and hope he fixes it?" There was another pause. Then she said the sentence that shattered something inside me. "Maybe this is a sign. Maybe I should think about my future without him." I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. This was the woman who once held my hand in a tiny apartment and told me she believed in my dreams. The woman who promised we were a team no matter what. Now she was discussing an exit plan. Less than 24 hours after hearing we were bankrupt, I stood frozen in the hallway. Unable to move, every word felt like a knife slowly twisting deeper. She wasn't crying, she wasn't scared for us. She was calculating her options. "I'll give it a few days," she told Rachel. "But I'm not staying stuck. In a sinking ship, a sinking ship." That's what I had become in her eyes. When the call ended, I quietly stepped outside. Before she could see me, I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe. The test I had created was working, and it was destroying me. For the first time in our marriage, I realized something painful and undeniable. I was afraid I already knew the verdict. I didn't sleep that night. Emily lay beside me, her back turned, her breathing slow and steady, as if nothing had changed, but everything had changed. The words I heard that afternoon, replayed in my mind over and over again. A sinking ship, my future without him. By morning, I knew I couldn't pretend anymore. She was sitting at the kitchen island, sipping coffee, scrolling through her phone like any normal day. Sunlight streamed through the windows, reflecting off the marble counters we once celebrated buying together. I stood there for a moment, studying her face, wondering how someone could look so calm. After quietly planning their exit, "Emily," I said firmly, "we need to talk." She glanced up. "About what? I came home early yesterday." Her hand froze around the coffee mug. "I heard your phone call." The color drained from her face. For a split second, guilt flashed in her eyes. But it disappeared just as quickly, replaced by defensiveness. "You were spying on me," she snapped. "I wasn't spying," I replied. Struggling to stay calm, I walked into my own house and heard my wife discussing her future without me. She stood up, crossing her arms. "You lied to me first. You told me we were bankrupt. What did you expect, that I'd throw a celebration?" "I expected honesty," I said, "and loyalty." She let out a sharp laugh. "Loyalty? You just told me our entire life is collapsing. Do you have any idea what that is to someone?" "Yes," I said quietly. "It shows who they really are." Her eyes narrowed. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I stepped closer. "When we had nothing. We promised each other we'd build everything together. Now that there's a chance we might lose it." "You're already planning your escape." I was scared, she shouted. "Scared people hold on," I replied. "They don't. Start looking for better options." Silence filled the kitchen. She looked away first. "You don't understand," she said, her voice softer now. "I can't go back to struggling. I can't go back to counting pennies and worrying about rent. I worked too hard to live like that again." "We worked too hard," I corrected her. She hesitated. "That's the difference." I continued. "You're afraid of losing comfort." "I'm afraid of losing us." Her expression shifted, conflicted. Uncertain, but not remorseful. "I need security," she said finally. "I need to know I'm safe. I thought that's what marriage was." I replied, feeling safe with each other, not safe with a bank account. Tears welled up in her eyes, but I couldn't tell if they were from hurt or frustration. "You put me in this position." She said. "You created this mess with your lie." "No," I said quietly. "I just revealed something that was already there." We stood facing each other, two strangers in a house full of memories. For the first time since we met, I felt distance I couldn't bridge. And deep down, I realized something painful, even if the money was gone. What hurt most was knowing her faith in me disappeared. First, the house felt colder. The next morning, we barely spoke. After the argument, Emily stayed upstairs most of the night, and I sat alone in my office, staring at financial reports on my laptop. The same reports that proved we weren't bankrupt at all. In fact, the company had just closed one of its most profitable quarters. But none of that brought me peace. Around 9 a.m., I found her in the living room. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept either. For a moment, I almost felt guilty, almost. "We need to finish this," I said calmly. She looked at me, her eyes guarded. "Finish what? The truth?" I took a deep breath. "We're not bankrupt." She blinked. "What?" "The company is fine, better than fine," I lied. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument we'd had. "You lied," she repeated slowly. "Yes." "I wanted to know something. I needed to know something." Her face shifted from confusion to anger. "So this was some kind of game to you?" "It wasn't a game," I said firmly. "It was a test." Her eyes filled with tears. "You tested me. I needed to know if you loved me or the life I provide." She stood up abruptly. "That's insane." "Marriage isn't a loyalty exam." "No," I agreed. "It's not, but loyalty shouldn't disappear in 24 hours either." She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. She knew I was scared. She said again, but her voice lacked conviction. "You didn't sound scared on the phone." I replied quietly. "You sounded prepared." That hurt her, I could see it. "You humiliated me," she whispered. "You made me feel unsafe, and you made me feel replaceable." I answered. Tears rolled down her cheeks now, but something inside me had already shifted. The love I felt for her wasn't gone, but it wasn't the same. It had cracks. I can't believe you would manipulate me like this. She said, I can't believe you were ready to walk away that easily. The room fell silent again. Finally, I spoke the words I had been dreading. I've contacted a lawyer. Her head snapped up. You're divorcing me. I don't want a partner who measures love by comfort. I said steadily, if we ever faced real hardship, I'd spend every day wondering when you'd leave. You're throwing away our marriage over one conversation. I'm ending it because that conversation showed me who we've become. She sank back onto the couch, stunned. For a brief moment, I felt the weight of what I was about to lose. The memories, the laughter, the years we built together. But I also felt something else rising inside me, clarity. Money didn't destroy us. My lie didn't destroy us. The truth did a week later. I filed the papers. I didn't lose my business. I didn't lose my home. But I did lose the illusion that love and loyalty always grow together. And strangely, even through the pain, I felt richer than ever because I finally knew what was real.